Dude,
it
I have
sounds
chills right now.
It was crazy though, the way it happened. And so like when I left, I was so excited. When I got home, I called my mama. She was like, Donna Ray, that's a blessing. You know, I really feel like our people were with you. Like we're all part of a big patchwork quilt. The Appalachian people, we all make up this big patchwork quilt. We're all woven together. All of those stories are going to weave together and just be this big warm hug for somebody.
In Madison County, our stories live in the voices of our elders. But what happens when the voices start to fade? That's where people like Donna Ray Norton step in, turning generations of memory into something that can't be forgotten with the Appalachian Memory Project.
But before we get into it, if you love hearing stories that connect community and creativity across Western North Carolina, go ahead and follow and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss what's happening and what's going to come next. Welcome back to WNC HeartBEAT, where we talk with the people who are keeping Western North Carolina's communities vibrant, connected, and creative. I'm Allie, and this is my co-host, Anna.
Hi, so today we're sitting down with 8th generation Madison County Ballad singer and Appalachian Memory Project coordinator, Donna Ray Norton. Welcome.
Thank you.
She's one of the voices helping preserve not just old songs, but the living memories of this place and the people who make it what it is.
Thanks for having me.
But thanks for coming on. I know you're so busy. You have so many things on the go, and it's really nice that you made it down.
Lots of irons in the fire.
Yes, everybody, right? So, Donna Ray, you come from one of the oldest ballad families in Madison County, 8th generation, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your family's roots here and what it was like growing up surrounded by this music.
And my family's been singing, playing music for as long as I can remember. I don't really ever remember a time that I didn't hear music growing up. I think the earliest account of my ancestors being in Western North Carolina was like in the 1700s. And so the lucky thing for my family is that our history's been documented throughout time.
That's truly amazing.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't have that luxury, and I am very thankful that I had that in my family, because if it weren't for folks like, you know, English folklorist Cecil Sharp, who came through the Appalachian Mountains in 1916, collecting over 25 ballads from my great Aunt Mary Sands, then, you know, that would have been one less thing of documentation. And he has a whole book about it or whatever. So, but yeah, it was very fun for me to grow up, in the little community that I'm from. So I'm from Madison County, but I'm from a little community in Madison County called Sodom Laurel. And, everything was very secluded there. We were very sheltered, like, you know, when I say in the hollers, in the mountains, like that's where I'm from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we just got the internet out there a few years ago, and I remember when their roads were not paved out there.
Yeah, hollers are truly hollers. They are. I remember the first time I heard that word, and it's like, it's exactly what you think, this nest of like misty trees and valleys and just beauty, but like so quiet and still and sometimes isolated, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was definitely very quiet, other than, you know, us making our own entertainment. And because we sang, we played music, and we danced. And so that was our entertainment. We also lived off the land. I mean, we grew our own food. That's how we worked, and survived. And so, you know, I feel lucky to have grown up in the culture that I grew up in, and experience the old ways, the way that they were before they started to change.
Donna Ray, for people who haven't heard of the Appalachian Memory Project, how would you describe what it is and why it matters?
The Appalachian Memory Project is a group of really cool people who are of this place, coming together and basically doing something that I had been wanting to do for a really long time. I just didn't know how to do it or have the means to do it at the time. But really, we're sort of focusing on collecting, well, we are focusing on collecting oral histories from people in the Appalachian Mountains, and, preserving their stories, just like Cecil Sharp did for my family. And so, you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. It doesn't have to be music. It can be anything. Just traditions that you've shared in your family, or if there's a really cool story that you know about your grandparents or something like that. I mean, it can be anything you want it to be about. But, for me, I really I wish that I would have had the opportunity to record my nanny, my grandmother, my grandfather, myself before they passed away. And so, by doing this, I'm hoping that we can, help people preserve their families' histories and memories of their loved ones before it's too late, because, that's a regret that I have, is not doing that before now.
And the idea is to have these stories all compiled and available, record vocal recordings and in a book, is that right?
Yeah. The other thing that's pretty neat about this project is that I don't really feel like it's ever been done quite this way. So for me, there's a Madison County Volume 1 where people were able to write in like autobiographies or whatever, or of their people and their family, and submit those and send in photos. But these stories are actually coming from the person. Like, this is your chance to tell your story and the story of your people in your own words. Like, we'll be using the words that you say to us. We'll literally be using the interviews to form the chapters. It's not going to be like I'm going to go in there and change everything that you said, and it's going to come like maybe it'll be third person, but you know what I mean? Like, it's actually our words that are saying these stories. Like, and when I say our, I mean Appalachian people.
So you'll get to capture the really fun cadences or the sayings or the way people say things. I think that's one of the magic parts of the Appalachian Memory Project, is to get that authentic voice recorded and down for everyone to hear, because you can not only purchase the books and read about it, but you can also access it online for free. And so it's part of this digital archive that's part of the project. Is that correct?
That's the goal, yeah. And it is available for people to look at. And so, and the other cool thing about that is that, who better to record an Appalachian person saying an Appalachian thing than an Appalachian, because if somebody says something to me, and, somebody else, like somebody from off, as we'd say over home, if you're from off, if you're not from around here. So we would say, like somebody from off would come in and read this thing. They're like, oh, well, they didn't mean this certain thing. That actually should have been this. And then I'm going to go back in there and be like, no, that is what that meant. And that is how that was supposed to be, like, so for me, that's another cool part of, being involved in the project in the way that I am, is that I actually can make sure that people's voices are heard correctly.
So when you sit down with someone to record a story, what's the process experience like? Like, do you find people open up pretty easily, or does it take time to get that story?
I think it depends on the person. I mean, some people are talkers and they're willing to just come right in there, like, I've had people come in and they knew exactly what they wanted to say. They had a whole story. They had their items laid out in front of me, and I didn't even have to ask them any questions. Like, I literally just went in and let her tell her story. And that was interesting, because the others had been a little bit more, you got to let people loosen up. You can't just go into an interview with somebody cold. I mean, and you just, because also it's kind of weird when people are just staring at you, expecting you, or they hear the word recording. They're like, whoa, that freaks them out,
This is like a performance where you have a warm-up act. You want to warm up, warm up your own perception of what's happening.
Yeah, it just depends on the person, really. I mean, sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's hard. I think it helps, though, for people to kind of know who I am, as a person from this place. I think that's definitely helpful for me. But, people are very protective of their things and their memories and their stories. And so sometimes people might be a little bit standoffish, and I understand that. I mean, I'm from here. I get it. But, it's not like, we're trying to do anything bad with these stories or anything like that. We're just trying to preserve history for people. and their families. And so, once they actually realize that, and I've had a chance to kind of sit and talk to them about things, then they start to open up. But it definitely having, the person come in and just tell her own story was kind of crazy because I was not expecting that, but it was great.
So you said before that a ballad can carry an entire family's history. Can you talk about how music helps people remember differently than writing things down or any other way of carrying forth that thread?
For my family, it's just kind of like it's in your blood. It's just a part of who you are. Um, but I think that a lot of times, and I say this a whole lot lately, and I'm not even sure whose phrase this is, but like when words fail, music speaks. And so, even in times of tragedy, um, that's the one thing that people kind of go back to, and that's the one thing people can connect over or with. Um, and it brings people together. And so I think that music is one of the things that gets a lot of people through their day. And yeah, over home, it was like that's what we did while we were working. It was singing. That's how we were remembering these songs. And just, remember when you were a little kid and you had to recite things out loud, and it made it easier for you to do that, like, nursery rhymes or little songs that you learned when you were in elementary school. Like, if you don't do that and you just write them down or you just listen to it over and over, it doesn't stick as well.
I could see how, because music isn't just the words being spoken. There's so much feeling that goes into it. And you're telling a story, again, not just with the words. You could hum the tune, and
Mhm.
it's the tune your grandmother's grandmother's grandmother sang. And I'd imagine I mean, there's history in just the feel of the air in your lungs, and the sort of what it taps into in your brain. I really, not that I am a singer myself, but I can imagine what
Yeah,
that
well,
would be like. Certainly listening to it evokes a lot.
that's definitely like what you said is true. I mean, like I'm gonna write that down so I can remember what you just said. No, but it's literally just like, these songs tell a story of a people, and it's if I were to just sing a song at you, right? Like if I didn't actually feel the emotions or the connection to the people and the place, then it's going to be boring. I mean, it's like sitting and listening to like the teacher in Peanuts or something, wah, 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 wah. Like that's boring. If somebody's singing, even if they have a beautiful voice and there's no emotion, like no connection to the song or the story or the music, that's, you have to feel it.
Has there been a moment, maybe one of the stories that you recorded through Appalachian Memory Project, that really stuck with you and reminded you why this work matters?
There are a lot of them. Like I remember a whole lot of them, like I think I was talking with Mr. Kent. Is that Kent? Is it maybe Kent? I can't remember his first name, but he told me this story of being a kid in Spring Creek, and that he and his siblings used to ride the top of the pine trees. Like they would get on them, the smaller ones, and they would get on the top of them and they would bend them forward to the next tree and like basically just slide off of them down the mountain, like from tree to tree, treetop to treetop.
Wow.
Wow.
And then, yeah.
Oh.
And like also like sliding on the pine needles. Like it's because you know how slick they are. Like
Soft,
it's like having a slip and slide,
I know, because
basically.
I've fallen down them before.
But like that just reminded me like of all the things that I used to do even as a kid. Like we didn't have trampolines, so we would jump on backer pallets. And when I say backer, I mean tobacco. So we grew tobacco, and that was how we made money. And we had tobacco pallets, and they're all woven. They're like a big basket, but they're very springy. And so when you're little, the trampoline, I got many whippings over that. But it was, I mean, that, but it just little stories like him saying that. I mean, that's crazy. And like that is something that who's even gonna like, has anybody ever even heard of that? Like, what even, that was just so cool to me to like just that small story. And then for people talking to me about their parents' stores and the bookmobile that would come through Spring Creek. And like, how cool is that? A traveling library, like an ice cream truck, that's crazy.
There are so many unique and beautiful things about this life, Donna Ray, that I'm picking out from your speech. Just things that are woven into the fabric of being an Appalachian and living in the holler, living where you lived. And it really, I think it must inform the music so much that like when you're listening to something that you're singing, can you kind of feel your history sing with you a little bit? Or
Oh yeah, that's like absolutely. And I don't talk about that much because I don't want people to think I'm crazy or whatever. But like, I absolutely. I mean, I actually had this one experience when I did my very first solo show. I'll never forget it. I was at Warren Wilson College in the Sage Cafe, and I had a 2-hour set, and I was scared to death because I was young. I was like maybe 23. And I thought, oh my God, I don't know a whole lot of songs, so I'm gonna have to talk a bunch and tell stories and stuff. But I crushed it. It was a great show. It was full, and they had me back or whatever. But I was so terrified that I just threw out this prayer to my ancestors and anybody that was listening, and I was just like, please help me. And when I got on stage, I sat in this chair and I just closed my eyes for a second, and then I felt all this warmth behind me. And it was just there was just this bright yellow light that I could feel. And I know my grandfather was there, my grandmother, I could just feel it. And it sounds crazy, but I could. And
dude, I have chills right now. No, yeah, I do.
And it was crazy though, the way it happened. And so when I left, I was so excited. And this was back before cell phones were really even a big thing, and so when I got home, I called my mama and I was like, Mom, I told her all about it. And she was like, Donna Ray, that's a blessing, that's really amazing that you had that happen. And that's a special, I really feel like our people were with you last night or tonight. And so when I went to bed that night, I had a dream about my grandfather Bard. And I was on stage and I looked over and he was standing off the side of the stage, and he passed away on my 6th birthday. And I looked off to the side of the stage and he was standing there, and he didn't say anything, but he just nodded his head. And so that was strange to me. I'd never dreamed about him before. And so I called Mom again the next morning, and she was like, oh, Donna, that is so, oh, Dawn. That's what she used to call me. Oh, Dawn, that is so special. She said, you just got the Bard Ray head nod.
Oh.
And I was like, what's the Bard Ray head nod?
That's very important. I can tell.
Yeah, she was like, that means he accepts you. He approves.
Stamp of approval right there.
I was like, she's BSing, that's what I was thinking. But then I've met so many people that remembered him. And Don Petty is a musician who's from Madison County, or he's been here for a really long time. He plays the dulcimer. He's a great singer, historian, stuff. But he told me, he said when he moved down here, he moved from up north, came down here, and he tried to play in all these different bands with his dulcimer, and nobody would let him play. And then one day he went to every jam that Bard held. And finally somebody was sick. And so Bard motioned for him to come up there and play. And he played, and he said, Bard looked at me when I got done and he nodded. And I knew I was in. That's what he said. I knew I was in.
Oh, that's so cool.
So I guess Mom was telling me the truth the whole time.
I love hearing these stories, by the way. You do not, to me at least, you do not sound crazy. That makes sense in so many ways. And
not crazy at all.
You hear enough of that in life. I'm not, yeah.
Well, and also, we're all part of a big patchwork quilt. The Appalachian people, we all make up this big patchwork quilt. We're all woven together. We're all part of a really big quilt. So, I mean, all of those stories are gonna, weave together and just be this big warm hug one day for somebody.
Talk to me for a second about the Spring Creek book, because Spring Creek was sort of the first place that you guys launched this Appalachian Memory Project. And the idea is it'll expand to other areas. By the time this airs, we'll have a pre-sale page up. Is that right, Anna?
Yeah. Yep, you would buy the book.
Okay, so we're going to have the link in our description. So you guys absolutely do check out this book. It's really beautiful. But Donna Ray, tell us what's inside. Like when they open this thing up, what are they seeing? What are they reading?
So I think this first book is going to be more centered around the school. And, some of the interviews that we did in the beginning about the school itself, because at first people don't know who you are. They're not going to like just welcome you in. And so you have to find like a common ground. Like the school is a common ground for people in Spring Creek. Like people have stories about that and they can talk about those because they're stories, but they're not super personal. Like they're not just like sharing their soul with you at the, like they're telling you stories, and they're great stories, but they're just not too involved in their family history, basically. So in this first book, where it's centered around the school, and so you're going to see stories from several different community members. We actually attended the reunion down there, so there's some really cool stuff in there from Miss Ruby and her kids that were in her class, and lots of really amazing photos that people brought in and shared with us. I'm not going to tell you a whole lot because by the book or
By the book, yeah.
But I was actually shocked when I first read the the proof chapters, because I thought myself that it was gonna be like more, formed out kind of, you know what I mean? And it's really they read like a chapter book, and it's, to me, it's just so beautiful and easy to read and feels good and made me happy when I was reading them.
So what's next for the Appalachian Memory Project? Are there other communities you're looking to highlight after Spring Creek?
Well, of course. I mean, Madison County is a big county.
It is. It's got so many facets.
And, luckily, we were able to get the grant with, the Spring Creek Community Center was able to get the grant to help us fund their books. And so, we have another grant that we're waiting to hear back for right now about, that will help us publish some more books. And so, we're really kind of hopeful that, other communities that are interested in having us come out and have memory days and want to be a part of the series, have some sort of connections or, may know of some other grants that they could have possibly apply for that would bring us directly into their community. And then that would give them the opportunity to talk about whatever they want to talk about in their community. I've talked with some folks at Ebbs Chapel, and I've met with the folks down at Laurel Community Center a couple of different times. So there's definitely potential there. We just need to be mindful of the fact that, Spring Creek applied for this grant, and that's what sort of funded the first, book with them. And so that's just the thing right now, is just making sure that we have the funding to keep this moving forward.
All right. So if people are interested in getting involved, whether it's helping obtain funding, sharing a story, getting their community involved, is it just a direct email to you, or what's the best way to sort of go about helping out?
So I think that, if people are interested in telling a story or, getting together with us, that, they can absolutely email me. There's all sorts of different contact information on our website that people can find. And
We'll
I think
link
it's,
that. We'll
yeah,
link your website in the
I
description.
think that's the best way probably for folks to get in touch with us, is to just go through our website. We have several different, it's a really amazing website. It's been put together very well. It looks great and it's easy to follow.
Was that Anna?
Yeah. It was a group effort. It was a group effort, but yes, I do take care of it for right now.
Yeah, and there also, like, there's a Q&A page that people can look at. Like if they're curious about what, well, what this, why that, and how this and all that. So folks can go on there and find that information out as well and shoot us an email.
Well, Donna Ray, thank you so much for sharing your time and your voice, both in song and in story. What you're doing with the Appalachian Memory Project really shows how remembering can build a stronger future.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
Before we wrap up, Anna, I have one more question for her. That's on our list, and I really do want to hear the answer for it. And I don't know if this is something you want to answer, Donna Ray. But one of our last questions was: so you've spent your lifetime preserving your family's memory through song, and now you're collecting other people's family memories. Is there a story or lesson you hope that people will remember about you someday?
Wow. That's a
I'm going deep
mm,
with that one, okay?
that was a deep one. I'm like, "Oh my god." I've honestly, I've never even thought about that. Like, um, you know, I hope that people remember me in a good way. I hope that people, you know, think that I tried to do all that I can to help, and I hope they see that I am working really hard at what I'm doing, and I take it very seriously. You know, I am an Appalachian person, and I have lived with the stigmas that people put on us for so long, you know, and I've worked really hard to kind of break those and, you know, show people who Appalachian folks really are. We're not all those things that you see on TV or read about in books, like, or magazines or whatever. You know, we need to be putting out our own stories and telling people who we really are.
You are doing such an incredible it's such incredible work with all of that.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I just hope people remember me and, you know, feel like I did good work while I was here, you know.
And that's Donna Ray, that's the essence of this podcast, is why we're here telling these stories, is because people are so much more in depth than they get represented in traditional media. That's why we're here talking to people, giving people opportunity to say their stories, and we really thank you for helping us do that.
Well, thank you guys. It
And if
takes a
any
village. This is the thing. You guys are doing the thing that Cecil Sharp did for my family for other people. So thank you. I mean, that's you guys are just as important as everybody else.
Such a pleasure having you on, Donna Ray. I know you and I have done some interviews before, but I feel like every time we get together, you your words are just so beautifully put together, and there's so much meaning, and it's so inspiring to talk to you about all of your stuff you're working on.
Thank you.
And for anyone out there listening or watching who is as moved as we are in this in this episode, because I am feeling a little emotional. I don't know why. Please be sure to subscribe, be sure to follow, lean in a little closer, and go check out the Spring Creek book, guys. It means a lot to us. When you purchase a book, it helps support the Appalachian Memory Project. It helps propel the project forward, because the more that we can support the project, the more stories we can record and the more we can really reach into Appalachian culture and preserve the memory there. So again, link is going to be in the description. And
Can I say one more thing?
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
I think I just want to say, I don't know if this is like a spoiler or whatever, and maybe you'll have to cut this out.
I love spoilers.
I think people should keep an eye out too, because there's going to be a strong presence of music with something that we're going to be doing in the future with the Appalachian Memory Project. It's going to have a little bit of a different, you know, title or whatever, but we're about to get up in there if people really want to know about the music of the area. So,
I really want to know about the music of the area, so sign me up for sure.
yeah, so
Yes, absolutely. So if you liked this one, don't miss our last episode, where we sat down with Alice McVeigh to talk about the new business center at Spring Creek Community Center and how we're helping local folks launch new ideas right here at home. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.